Are we live? Let me go and share this, Jordan. And then we get rocking and rolling. Let's go. Boom. We are. Look at that. That's cool. Share. Let's get started here. And welcome to the Super Terb Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Turba, your local real estate expert with the Ida Turba Group, Coal Banger HPW, aka Super Terb, aka Coach Turb. And we're here for episode 65. And I have my awesome assistant, but my brain, everything is next to me here. We're in the studio, got a new mic. Excited about this. I'm going to open a drink, guys. It's hard. We're in episode 65 where we talk real estate, business, sports, and beer in the triangle. And we hadn't had a podcast in a while. We were going to have someone come on last week or two. George, I call him out right there. We'll have him come on. But I thought today would be a great time, Jordan. It's hard to believe it's April 13th for us just to talk about the first quarter of 2023, the market, what we're seeing. We're getting a lot of questions. I don't know about you, but whenever we're out, Turb, how's the market? Are you busy? What are the rates doing? What's selling? So I just thought it would be a great time. We always try to come on quarterly to talk about the market and, what we're seeing. So Jordan, for everybody out there, tell them your name and what you do and all that good stuff for somebody that's listening to the podcast for the first time.
Yeah, my name is Jordan Hollingsworth. I think last time I was on, I was Jordan Hatch. I changed my name recently.
You may have. I'll have to check on
that. So I've been here working with you for the past 2 years now, at the 2-year mark back in February.
And talk about that real quick, because you started a little over 2 years ago, and maybe just what you've seen in the market in regards to just craziness to crazy, whatever it may be.
No, every single quarter has been tangibly different since I joined in the winter of 2021, early year. So inventory was really low in 21. So this was the ending of the first full year of COVID, really. And we were still out in the field, meeting people at houses, and, we were all masked up. And there was such high competition back then. I mean, even my first few offers, they were still multiple offers. And we were having to go above asking. There were a few times where we lost out, not because we misstrategized, but it just wasn't the house for them, not at what they were asking for, not what we were competing for. And then April, so 2 months after I started, I think that was when we saw due diligence jump from maybe like 5, 8, 10,000 to 50,000. And that client, it was so weird. They had $50,000 wired to their account like that day. And we about fell out of our chairs. But that was the first of May.
That's actually about 2 years ago this
April.
Weekend. Because it came up on my memory. That was for my buddy Mike and Tiffany. We listed their home. And literally, I think today was 2 years ago that we were going live. And we went, we had 11 offers, I think, that weekend.
Yeah. And it, like I said, that was the mark of the second quarter of that year. And I'm telling you, like every 3 months, there was a drastic change that required us to be on our feet, to adapt, and to re-strategize with every client. Every case was completely different.
Yeah. No, it's really crazy. And I've got stats for March. Stats actually just came out. So for people that are listening, we get stats through our triangle MLS. And for people that are listening on the podcast, what I said, when I say triangle, we're talking Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina, Wake County, the capital. And we get our stats through Triangle MLS. And it was interesting when I was getting stats for the podcast today, they actually just released March. I thought something that was very interesting is in February, our average sales price was $511. Okay. And in March, our average sales price is back to $531.
Wow.
And the reason for that, we had a little bit of appreciation from a year ago this time, March. It's a little bit been fluctuating, but I think the biggest thing is when I saw stats from a month ago, and I'm like, how could it go from 540 to 511, in a month? And I'm thinking, because I know with us, our inventory is still below where we were with COVID and the pandemic. We're at 1.3 months supply as of March. Last month in February was 1.2. And again, this is for Wake County. We still don't have houses. We're
Right.
still in multiple offer situations. But I think the biggest thing that we're seeing is that the homes that are selling are that 500 and under price point.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's all that way. I actually see it seems like the higher end, closer to $1 million, and 500 and under are selling. However, if you list a home for 600, 700, 800, location dependent, pricing right, it's gone too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're seeing more inventory on the 500 and under, which I think is the reason we're seeing this average sales price of 511 to 530. Yes. Because that now, when you combine the fact that interest rates have gone up from a year ago, almost doubled, it's affected our buying power, and in turn, it's caused the pricing to kind of go to that, that range.
Yes.
So when I see things, I'm like, it doesn't mean our market went down that much. It's just what's selling.
Yeah, and I think a good way to consider, are we seeing depreciation, or are there other factors at play? And something that confirms that we're not really seeing depreciation is we're selling houses in the same neighborhoods we have been in the past 2 years. And our marketing strategy our change in marketing strategy does not include a price cut. Like, we're still selling those homes at that price or even a little higher with multiple offers. It's just, I think the people who are buying right now are in a different bracket. I would say vast majority of our buyers right now are first-time home buyers. We're looking in the 400 and under range.
Yep.
And we even,
completely agree. I feel like they're either renting.
Mm-hmm.
They could have owned a home before, but they're Airbnb-ing it. They're renting. Their leases usually come up between May and August.
Yes.
And they want to buy. They don't have a rate to compare to. I've been saying this since last fall, is if sellers that are not needing to sell are not selling. We're seeing a lot of listings is relos. We're starting to see a few more relocations. They are estate sales. There are divorces. There are people that are building and need to sell to go into that next home. The lateral move right now is we're not seeing it, meaning we just want to buy, then sell. Right now, people are just watching out because over 70% of the country has rates of 3% or under. And I say 3, I don't mean 3, even in the 3s and under. So if you take that into a equation, over 70% of the United States is over the 3s or under. They're not going to be moving unless they have to. Now, if in our market, when we've bought since 2020, it's interesting because I'm calling our past clients, I'm checking on numbers, I'm trying to provide home values. It's pretty indicative or pretty certain that if you bought in 2020 or since 2020, maybe the best way to say this is you've seen almost a 35% appreciation in your home. There are instances where we've sold over 50% appreciation. We had clients that bought in 19 for 330. They sold for just under 517. If you bought your home from 2014 on for about that 2014 to beginning of 2020, we saw around 6% a year, just nice and steady. And then of course COVID hit, and then bam. So sellers are sitting on a ton of equity right now. They're either doing home renovations, which is great, or they have equity. And I feel like this is just my gut. What I think is going to happen is I think this year is going to be pretty, let's wait and see what happens kind of deal. We've been told by Fannie Mae that rates, and all of our economists out there, again, I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. This is projections, but they're projecting rates to be in the 5s, mid to low 5s come third or fourth quarter of this year.
Gotcha.
I think coming in next year, we're going to see people that have been in their home 3 to 5 years, especially the first, maybe second home, and they're ready to get that extra room. They're ready to, get that larger lot. And they may understand that they're accepting the fact that, we may be selling this home with a 3% or 3.5% interest rate, and we're going to buy something that's at 5.25%, but the equity that we've gained, we're going to be able to put so much more into that house.
Right.
At the end of the day, from the beginning of cavemen to now, people always need a home. It's just the outside circumstances. And in saying that, though, since the beginning of the year, every buyer we've worked with this year, because I know we had one client that went under contract around Christmas time, but they lost out in a multiple offer before they got that home.
Correct.
Every buyer we've worked with is a multiple offer situation.
Yes.
And one thing that I'm going to do a video on is I heard this radio ad. I listened to an ad. I love my Carolina Panthers. And there's a real estate company that was like, this is the market now for buyers to take their time and have opportunities to buy homes. And I just chuckled because it's not that. I think the difference is they're actually able to get into a home where year and a half ago, we saw the sight unseens.
I admit, I haven't seen sight unseens since the craziness. And it's funny that you say that, because that was the first thing I noticed when it turned 2023 is we had all of these buyers, and we were looking at a lot of homes, like more than usual for your average buyer. And I was trying to figure out like why there was less urgency, because even when we finally wrote an offer, we were losing because it still was multiple offers, and somehow there was this disconnect of there's still low inventory, we're still going up against a lot of people, and it was just harder to digest, I think, for some of our buyers. Yeah,
well, I think it's outside circumstances, what they hear outside.
Yeah,
they're watching their budget. I mean, we even had one home where we had clients that had been on the market over 90 days, and we put an offer and another offer came in. As we always say, offers breed offers. You have people that are always circling, they're always looking at homes, and then they're going to get involved. And the fact that we've been able to show more houses, there's a couple reasons for that in our market. As we've discussed before, we really don't have coming soons anymore. And if we do, it's only for a couple days. And the reason for that is how MLS changed the rules, saying if you go coming soon, your days accumulate on market. So if you did a 7-day coming soon, by the time you go live, it would show 8 days on market. And that's just not a good report card, because days on market is equivalent to dog years. And so you started seeing less coming soons, which took away from the sight unseen offers. Obviously, the rates going up limited the buying power in that regard. So buyers have had more opportunities to get into houses, but they are finding out that, yes, we want them to get the best home for them, but they don't have all the time in the world to make that decision. It's kind of like what we say when we work with clients, is that when you go down that runway, you've done all the preparations, you've been pre-approved, you know your price point, you know what you're looking for, you know the location, and you're set to take off. When you go down that runway, we're going to take off. It's going to be finding that home. And so that hasn't changed. What else are you seeing in the market that may be different from a year ago?
Well, just to back up for a quick second, because I have a question just for fun. If you could snap your fingers, would you bring coming soon back? And if it had never gone away, how different do you think the market would be? Because we're coming up on a full year.
I think if we didn't change the rules to coming soons, we would even have less inventory. Meaning, before you're both in both situations, you have actives and actives coming soon. And when coming soons and the sight unseens were at its height, its peak, you would have probably 60-40 actives coming soon. So every weekend it was churning of new homes hitting the market that didn't sell sight unseen, but then they were scooped up. When they went to essentially eliminating that, now homes are hitting the market, and that's in turn why we've gone from half a month, 0.5 to 1.3 months inventory. And I think that's a pretty good contributing factor to that. I think if coming soon was still in play, like it was being utilized, it would even be less that buyers can walk into. Now, I also think due to the interest rates and with the government trying to slow down inflation and buying power decreasing and people being content in the homes they're in with the current financial rates they have or interest rates, it may have eliminated some of the sight unseens. But I will say in our market, we have over 60 people moving here a day. We're still underpriced on a macro level comparing most of the country. And there's no coincidence that the eastern part of the country prices continue to go up, and the western part of the country, the prices continue to go down. But there are pocket areas like anything else. Like I have a good friend of mine that sells um, in Santa Clara County near Google's backyard.
Yeah.
He's selling for $300,000 to $400,000 over asking, which is like unheard of.
It's a whole house here.
Amy she agrees on the coming soon.
Yeah.
I think one thing about coming soon, like Amy has a listing. I think when you see it coming soon, if they do a coming soon, it's only for a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, we could have done a coming soon for up to 30 days before the days accumulated. So we're seeing that. But the demand is still there for buyers. So when people ask me about how the market is, I say it's just peculiar. It's an interesting market. Yeah. One thing that we're not seeing a lot of is listings. But the buyers are there. So as long as as sellers, if you need to sell or you look, as long as you price it correctly and we have it show ready, you're also getting, we never stop this. Our teams never stop this. We'll always have our homes prepared and show ready. But I think even now more so, you just can't put up a sign in the yard, price it, and just vacuum. You still need to have your home to show well, price well, bracket it correctly to get the most interest.
No, I will say I've noticed a difference in the quality of the listings that I visit with my buyers, because honestly, it was so easy to sell a house in the past couple years where people were kind of lazy, and it was a little unfortunate, but it just was what it was.
So what do you see over the summer? What the next quarter? It's hard to believe we're in quarter 2, so that would take us through the end of June. Mm-hmm. So what do you see happening?
So I know we've talked about this in the past. There's a general cycle that we see throughout each year, and the level of that cycle differs depending on the economic climate. But in general, we see a little bit less activity in the dead of summer because lots of people are going on vacation, and they've also tried to go ahead and get settled in the springtime. Most people have already moved by that point, and they're getting settled over the summer, whether that's for school reasons, vacation reasons, whatever. Also, a lot of leases are up in spring. So I think in the dead summer, we'll see a little bit of a slowdown compared to today. But like I said, we still have low inventory. We still have a ton of people moving here. We still have people trying to get out of renting. And they're trying to start to build wealth, because I can't remember who it was, but they had that really great analogy of when you own a house versus renting, you take money from one pocket and you put it into the other pocket when you own a house, because you're building equity and doing that, versus renting, you're just kind of throwing it away.
And there's times for renting. If it's a short-term situation, you may only need to be there a year. So then there's times for when I'll be like, hey, rent.
Yeah. Everyone's situation's different.
Yeah, exactly.
Our job as realtors is not to sell houses. It is to help our clients make wise decisions and how they can better manage their wealth via real estate.
Mm-hmm. No, you completely agree. And when the buyers that we're working with, again, I think one other difference is, for example, we helped an awesome young couple just get under contract yesterday, multiple offer situation. The difference was we only had to go a couple thousand over asking. Mm-hmm. We made other details different, such as higher DD, higher due diligence.
Flexible close date was
flexible
a huge
close.
part.
There's different factors that make, but we're not seeing a lot of across the board. Every deal's different. There was one where we had to go 50 over, but for the most part, we're not getting anything really more over than 20 over. It's always priced right. But I think it's this because the people that are buying are in a lot of the same, I don't want to say category, but the same demographic that have either little liquid, or it's very important that the home appraises.
Correct. And I discussed that with them to help us with our strategy, because like I said earlier, we have a lot of first-time home buyers. As a first-time home buyer, you're not supposed to have, tens of thousands of dollars just sitting in your bank account waiting to be spent. That's not
how
your 20s work.
No.
So when they're trying to get out of renting and buy a house at that same price point as other 20-somethings or early 30-somethings without a lot of cash, it's very important that we look at the comps in the area so that way we can predict an appraisal, because we're not in a situation where we can afford a $15,000 appraisal gap. And for their situation, all of those townhomes were being sold
very close to asking.
Asking.
We did a little homework and found that out.
And also, like, it wasn't like we're saying 300 and 350. They were all right around 300. So that was also a flag that they were selling right at asking, because you could tell that those prices weren't going up in the past few months. So with that knowledge, we're like, well, I don't think we need to go that high over asking. Maybe we go just a smidge, and we offer these other factors, like you said, as high a due diligence as we really could reasonably afford, and a flexible close date, and, you know, not taking all of the personal property like fridge, washer, dryer, whatever.
Whatever works with the seller.
Yeah.
Where 18 months ago, that same home, if we were able to find a home for 305, which was there, we would have immediately gone to 350.
Oh yeah,
like it would have been
your kids' college tuition.
Yeah, it would have been totally different conversation. But at the same time, the buyers that we just helped yesterday wouldn't have been able to buy.
No.
So I think that's really
why
important.
They're out now.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, for people listening, and for us to emphasize is that yes, this is still a seller's market. Yes, our inventory is still very low. We're going to be in multiple offers. You've got to be competitive. But for the buyers that couldn't compete, 12, 18 months ago, plus they have a chance now, because even our buyers that went under contract yesterday are planning on doing 100% financing.
Yep.
They still have some liquid if they had to bridge a slight gap in appraisal, but nothing major. And I think that's the biggest thing, if we could stress upon buyers that are on the fence, or maybe they're a little intimidated of the market and know where to start, is have that meeting, find a great agent, have that meeting, see what you can do, and get out there sooner or later. Because I think once this market, this demand, this seller's market's not going anywhere, because we can't build houses fast enough, and that's across the country. Every market's different, but there's a reason why we're Silicon Valley, East Coast, and everybody's coming here. When the rates do start going back down, and I'm never going to say never, but it's going to be some time, if any, where we're going to see rates in the 2s and the 3s and even the 4s. But when rates get down, and even historically, rates in the 6s is still really low. Like my mom talks about rates when they were 15, 18%. But as I told Mom, it's all relative. It's like the people that were planning on buying a year ago, and they were getting their estimated, costs of, the market or their monthly payments. It pretty much doubled, from where it was.
You get half the house, and you're not mentally prepared to start looking at lesser houses at that point. So you're going to get out of the market.
Exactly. So in saying that, I think, guys, recap, we could talk forever. It's been 23 minutes already.
I want to say
Go ahead.
A quick thing. What you were saying about, like, talk to your realtor, it is never too early to strategize. It is never too early to talk to someone just to see what you can do, because, again, as realtors, it is not our job to sell a house. It is our job to help advise you to build wealth via real estate, whether you're buying, selling, whatever.
You say that perfectly. We're here to help. And I mean, obviously, we want to sell houses.
I had a client yesterday. We were looking at a house, and it was in her budget, and it was more than enough space. But when we walked out of it, it needed a lot of updating. And she was really on the fence about it. She's like, am I stupid for not jumping on this? Because it was in a great location. It really was a good investment for the long term. But I said, it is not for you, because she would have felt stuck trying to make these repairs when she didn't have all of that monthly income to do that. She would be in a very severely underdated house for a very long time. And I had to look at her and talk her off the cliff.
Well, we always say who you work with matters, as well as, we're not only, when you buy, we're always telling our clients too, when you buy, you already act like you're selling. And that's where we are too. We want to put you in an area where statistically you're going to be in that first home 3 to 5 years, where we're going to get good appreciation for you, as well as when you go to resell, we're not going to have any issues getting resold. Yeah. So I think that's fantastic. But yeah, just to recap, first quarter, rates have kind of fluctuated. We got as high as, I believe, in the 7s, got as low in the low 6s. I've had a preferred lender lock in someone at the high 5s. Everything is fluid in the fact that, it depends on the buyer's income, credit score, down payment. So you got to take that in consideration. Supply is still very low. It's still low, lower than where we were beginning of 2020, currently still under 1.5 months supply. And to explain that to people that hear 1.5 months, they don't quite, okay, what does that mean? I thought my buddy Barrett Raven, great agent out of Austin, Texas, he was doing a market update. And he explained it perfectly. In Austin, they've got a little over 2 months. They have a little more inventory.
Got it.
But if you had 1.5 months supply in Wake County, what it's saying is if not another home was listed, it would take 1.5 months for all of them to sell.
Yep.
But to be in a good buyer-seller market, you want about a 5 to 6 month supply of homes. That means you've got enough to supply to meet the demand. And of course, if, rewind 14 years ago to 2009, we had over a 19-month supply of homes. So it was a severely buyer's market. So, to have a low seller's market, and this is the entire county, that's not if someone wants to be in North Raleigh or Cary or Wake Forest or Apex.
Very different stats.
Then it's even going to be less than that 1.3.
Yep.
It's probably going to be a third of that or half. So anyway, I feel like this summer, like everything's cyclical. This summer, it's going to be go time till really the end of June. July gets here. We've got 4th of July. We've got vacations. We've got million-degree weather.
Where are you going on vacation?
I can't wait. I'm going to Hawaii. Less than 2 months away.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm excited. Jacob's going back to space camp. So there's, we're pumped. So you're thinking about it like that. Everything's cyclical. I would just say if you're at all thinking, like Jordan said, about selling or buying, let's start having that conversation now. If you're in the triangle and listen to this, we'd be honored to help you.
Absolutely.
Again, just let us know how we can help you accomplish real estate goals. And I think that's it. I mean, we're just kind of going with the tide, as I say.
Trying to adapt.
But
every week's different.
But at the same time, we're creating the right expectations for both our buyers and sellers. And sellers, it's so paramount. Pricing is everything.
Yes.
I actually, and then we'll wrap up. I went to a listing appointment a couple days ago, and we were looking at comps. And in that, it's a good neighborhood, but it was the stats were up, more on days on market. Well, I looked at the homes that finally sold, and they were on the market 100+ days. And first of all, Super Terb don't do that.
No,
we don't do that.
You would be stressing for 100+ days.
3 days. I'm like, what's going on? But I looked at their history, and they started $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 higher than where they should have been.
Yep.
And the problem is when they listed, it was also, I went 90 days back. So, there's times of the year too that's, as we had the market moving around a little bit. They were also comparing homes that sold in different marketplaces, but also the market dictated the final number. They don't take into the fact that they still listed it at a number that was correct, and then the market dictated the final number. They were taking that final number and trying to list it at that number, where in turn they're not getting the eyeballs, they're not getting the traffic, plus they're not factoring in the interest rate shift.
Yes.
But again, putting it in perspective of where like we have a listing going live today. One of my favorite homes of all time.
Yes.
My client, she should make 20%, at least how we priced it, 20% return on investment in just 2 years. So I try to look at that where the house down the street may have sold for more. Like we got to keep it in perspective of where you are and your return on your investment. So anyway, we'll wrap up. Any last words?
I think we covered a lot.
Okay. What's coming up on the horizon? We've got the NFL draft in 2 weeks from today. We're going to be welcoming a brand new franchise quarterback to the Carolina Panthers. We have the number 1 pick. I know we're going off topic a little bit. Yeah, we got sports there. Happy hour with Terb is the same day from 4:30 to 6:30 at my friends at Bond Brothers in Cary.
I'll be there with my dog.
Make sure if you guys are listening to come on out, bring your fur babies and hang out and have a cold beer on us. And it's hard to believe it's April, and I hope you guys are doing phenomenal. And if there's anything we can do to help you accomplish real estate goals, please reach out to us. Again, it's Michael Turbot and
Jordan Hollingsworth,
your local real estate experts with the Turbot Group, Coldwell Banker, Harper, and Walston. Remember, who you work with matters, and make it a great day. We'll see you next time.